Hey guys, all right, so today we are going to be continuing to build off of our understanding from yesterday of multiplying polynomials and all of that good stuff. And you're going to see how a lot of the individual skills that we've learned up until this point are going to tie into this. Now, the only difference with this skill number 2 today is that the notes and the practice problems are going to be all tied into this one video. So it will all be in this one. So it may be just a little bit longer, but just know that this is the only video that you will have to watch. All right, so we're going to be talking about the 3 special products today of polynomials. Okay, so the very first one we're going to be talking about is the square of sums. So if you look right here, you can see that it's taking 2 numbers. In this case, it has variables for them, but if we had 2 numbers that we're adding together, or the sum of those numbers, and then we're taking it and we're squaring it. Okay, so we're going to look at exactly how to do that, because what before now you're used to seeing is just a number squared, and we're going to be looking at how to do like the sum of numbers squared, or the sum of variables squared, and how we would actually go about solving that and simplifying it out. Okay, so the next one is going to be the square of difference. Okay, we know that the word difference means to subtract. So if you look here at this very first little example, it's exactly like this square of sums, except this time we are subtracting the 2 numbers. Okay, so once again, we're going to be looking at 2 variables, subtracting and then squaring it. All right, and then the last special product that we will be looking at is the product of a sum and a difference. Okay, so you can see that we have a sum right here and a difference right there, and we're multiplying them, or finding the product of those numbers. Okay, so we're going to look and see what that means. All right, so before we even get started, there is a new method that y'all are going to learn to solve problems that look like this. Okay, so what you're used to now, you're used to hearing the distributive property. So that's where you take a number outside of a parentheses, and you distribute it to everything inside. All right, so this new method that we're going to be talking about today is very similar to that. It kind of builds off of that same understanding, and it's called the FOIL method. All right, notice that there's little dots after each letter. That means each letter stands for a word. Okay, it's an acronym. All right, so F stands for first, outer, inner, and last. So you're probably thinking, okay, what the heck does any of that mean? All right, I'm going to explain it to you, so just bear with me. All right, so anytime you have a problem set up where it's taking 2 different variables and it's adding together, we know we can't combine those 2 variables together because they're 2 different terms. And then it's wanting us to square it. So essentially what this would look like is it's saying A plus B squared, so it's multiplying it by itself again. Okay, so it's going to look something like that. I'm sorry, I got to rewrite that. It's not equals to, taking up too much room. Okay, so we're taking that first little bit in parentheses, and if we're squaring it, that means we're multiplying it by itself again. All right, so anytime you have a situation like this where you're multiplying a set of terms by each other, that's when you know to do the FOIL method. So what you're used to, like I said earlier, is having just one number times a group. Okay, well now we have this. Okay, so it's going to be similar to the distributive method, but it's going to be called the FOIL method. All right, so what you're going to do is I'm going to try to use a different color for each one of these. Okay, so for the F, I'm going to use blue, For the O, I'm going to use green. For the I, I'm going to use orange. And for the L, I'm going to use pink. Yay. All right, so we're going to do the FOIL method. So anytime you have it set up like this, you need to know to do the FOIL. Okay, so that F stands for first. That means we're going to go first number times the first number. All right, then we're going to do outer. That means the numbers on the outside of each parenthesis. So first number times the first, outer number times the outer number. Notice how that looks a lot like the distributive. We're taking this first number and multiplying it by everything inside the parentheses. Okay, then I'm going to go to orange, and then it's inner. Okay, so the two numbers on the inner parts of our parentheses, we're going to multiply. And then the last one, last. Okay, so we're going to take the last number of each parentheses and we're going to multiply those together. Okay, so it's a lot, but you'll get it. Okay, you're essentially just distributing each thing by the other parentheses. Okay, so let's do that real quick. Let's do it one step at a time. So let's start with first. Okay, so that's the blue. So we have A to the first power times A to the first power. So that is going to equal A squared. Okay, then we have outer. Okay, so we have this A times B. Positive A times positive B. That's going to be AB. Inner. We have this inner number times this inner number. Okay, see how they're both on the inside of this whole problem? So that's B times A. Okay, and typically when you have variables, you write this, the letter that comes first in the alphabet. So that would be AB. And then finally, we have last. So the last number in this one times the last number in this parenthesis. So that's B times B, which would be B squared. All right, now we would simplify. So we're just going to combine our like terms. So I see that I have an AB and an AB. So my final answer, I would bring down my A squared, plus I have a 1AB plus 1AB, that's 2AB, and then I have positive B squared. And that would be it in simplest form. So just for those of y'all that are keeping up with the notes, at this point we combined like. All right, let's look at another one. Here are some examples. Okay, so we're going to practice just this one skill. I don't know why my page is all messed up. Okay, for some reason, the practice problems for these are all the way over here. So just on the printable that I have, it should all be in the correct spot. But it may not be. So just find x plus 5. No, that's not even right. It's all the way down here. Okay. X plus 5 squared and 2x plus 3 squared. Okay. That's what we're looking at here. I don't know why these notes are all messed up and why I'm just noticing it, but sorry about that. All right, so this is for the square of sums, and this is example 1. So if you're just copying this on a sheet of paper, you're fine. Just keep going in the same order that you see. Okay, so first thing I need to do is I notice I have x plus 5 squared. So we know when we're squaring something, we're just multiplying it by itself. So I'm just going to rewrite it like that. Okay, and so I know when I have two parentheses with two different terms in it, or more than one term, I have to use the FOIL method. Okay, FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. First, outer, inner, last. Okay, so first I have x times x. Okay, so that's going to give me x squared. All right, then I have outer, so I have my x times 5. So x times 5 would be 5x. Remember, coefficient always goes in front of your variable. All right, then I have outer. Okay, so first outer, inner, 5 times x would be 5x. And then I have last. So the last number in my parentheses times the last number in that parentheses. So 5 times 5 would be 25. All right, I'm going to combine my like terms. So I'm left with x squared. I have 5x plus 5x, which would be 10x plus 25. All right, and then my last example for this one, I have 2x plus 3 squared. So that would be 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. All right, I have two groups of terms, aka a polynomial times a polynomial. So we use the FOIL method. And just know the more you write that out, like FOIL, the more you're going to remember it. So keep that in mind. So we're going to do first. So we have 2x times 2x. So we remember we have to multiply exponents by each other. And then we have to add we multiply coefficients and we add exponents. Okay, so 2 times 2 is going to give me 4x. And so x to the first power times x to the first power, we add the exponent, so that's going to be x squared. Okay, so you can see how all of these rules are important to eventually remember. All right, so we did first. Now we're going to do outer. So I have 2x times 3. So I'm going to multiply my coefficients. 2 times 3, that's going to be 6. And then x to the first power times no variable would just be x. All right, then I'm going to do inner. So that's going to be these two numbers right in the middle. So 3 times 2x is again going to be 6x. And then last is going to be the last number in my parentheses by the last number in my other parentheses. So 3 times 3 is going to give me 9. All right, so now I need to combine my like terms, 6x and 6x. So I have 4x squared. 6x plus 6x is going to give me 12x plus 9. And that will be your final answer. Again, we're not actually solving for x. We can't solve for x when we have two different terms, okay? They would have to tell us that x equals 2 or something. All right, now moving on, we're going to be doing the square of difference, which I think all of these notes are in the correct spot. So this one should not be too confusing. I hope. All right, so we have the square of difference here. Same concept, except now we're going to be working with negatives. All right, so we have a minus b squared. So we're going to have a minus b times a minus b. And so I have two polynomials multiplied by each other, so I have to use the FOIL method. First, outer, inner, last. So a times a, that's going to give me a squared. Outer, a times a negative b is going to be a negative ab. All right, then I have inner. I have a negative b times a positive a, which is going to again be a negative ab. And then I have last, which is negative b times a negative b, which is going to be a positive b squared. All right, now that I'm done with my FOIL, I need to combine like terms. And I'm going to be left with a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And that would be it in simplest form. All right, example 2. Just going to jump right into it. We have x minus 5 squared. So that's going to be x minus 5 times x minus 5. Polynomial times a polynomial. I'm going to use the FOIL method. First, outer, inner, last. First, x times x. I have x squared. Outer, x times a negative 5. It's going to be a negative 5x. Inner, negative 5 times an x. That's going to be a negative 5x. Last, negative 5 times a negative 5 is going to be a positive 25. All right, combine like terms. Negative 5 and negative 5, that's going to give me negative 10x. And then I just bring down my other terms that I did not change. And there I have it. All right, we're going to practice a few of these. I'm going to maybe do 1 or 2 examples, and then I'm just going to put the answers to the other ones so that you can practice on your own and do it. Okay, so the ones I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one and this one, because that one, and that one looks very similar to the ones we've already done. Okay, so the first one I have is 2x minus 3 squared. So I'm just multiplying by 2x minus 3. All right, so I need to remember first, outer, inner, last. So I have 2x times 2x. That's going to give me 4x squared. Because I have to remember we multiply our coefficients and we add our exponents. Okay, so even though that doesn't have an exponent, we know it's understood to be 1. That's exactly what we talked about yesterday. Now, so we have first, outer, so the 2 ones on the outside of the parentheses. So 2x times negative 3, that would be a negative 6x. All right, then we have inner, so we have negative 3 times 2x, which again would be negative 6x. And then we have last, which is negative 3 times a negative 3, which would be a positive 9. All right, last step, we need to combine our like terms, which is negative 6 and negative 6x. And we're left with 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. Okay. And the last one that I have is this one right here, because it just looks slightly different, but we just have to remember all of our rules. Okay, so we have 3x squared minus 7 squared. So that squared just tells us we're going to do 3x squared minus 7 times 3x squared minus 7. Okay, I have 2 polynomials multiplied by each other, so I need to remember to FOIL. Oh, that left my nose. Sorry, guys. All right, so we remember first 3x squared times 3x squared. So we're going to multiply coefficients and add exponents. All right, so 3 times 3 is going to give me 9x. X squared times x squared is going to be x to the 4th, because remember we add the exponents. All right, next we have first outer, so we have 3x squared times negative 7, which would be negative 21x squared. All right, then we have inner, which is negative x times 3x squared. So that's going to give me negative 21x squared. And then last, we have negative 7 times negative 7, which is a positive 49. All right, so we have to combine our like terms, the 2x squareds. So then I'm going to be left with 9x to the 4th power minus 42 x squared plus 49. Now, if you wanted to go back and redo these three on your own just to make sure you've got it, I'm going to go ahead and put those answers down. Okay, so you should have gotten x squared minus 16x plus 64. This one you should have gotten x squared minus 6x plus 9. Sorry that this is all sloppy. And then this one down here, you should have gotten 25x squared minus 10x plus 1. Okay, so that is the square of difference. All right, the last one we'll be looking at is the product of a sum and a difference. Okay, all the same concept. The only difference is that what you're starting with, one of your polynomials has a plus and the other one has a subtraction, therefore the sum and the difference, okay? But you are just going to have to see that when you're doing the FOIL method, you just have to really pay attention to what those signs are, okay? So let's look at it. So I see I have a polynomial times a polynomial. So I should immediately think FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Let me get rid of these arrows. Dang it. Come out. All right. So first, A. Okay, well, A times A. So I'm going to have A squared. Okay. Outer, A times a negative B. Okay. A times a negative B is going to give me negative AB. Then I have outer. So I have a positive B times a positive A. So that's going to be positive AB. Maybe you see already what's going to be different about this one. All right, and then I have positive B times negative B. Okay, so we know a positive times a negative is going to be a negative. And then we have to add our exponents. So that's going to be negative B squared. All right, we have to still remember to combine our like terms. I have a positive AB plus AB. So what do you think will happen? They cancel. So all that I'm left with is A squared minus B squared. Okay, so that is example 1. Now, next I have this one. So we can see we have an addition and we have a subtraction in it. Okay, same process. I see I have a polynomial times a polynomial. So I have to do the FOIL method. All right, so I'm going to do first x times x, that's x squared. And I have outer, x times a negative 3. So that is going to be a negative 3x because my coefficient has to go in front of my variable. Inner, I'm sorry, positive 3 times x, so that's going to be positive 3x. And then last I have a positive 3 times a negative 3, which is going to be a negative 9. Once again, we have to combine like terms. And you can see that once again, those two like terms are going to cancel each other out. So I'm left with x squared minus 9. Right, I'm just going to do one of these down here. Now remember, this is where it was kind of messed up, so, whoops. Whatever. All right, that's from something else. Let me see if I can zoom in and kind of hide the rest of that. Okay, so I'm just going to do one of these. Let's go with the first one. Okay, so this will be example 3. So I see I have two polynomials multiplied by each other. Okay, so I have to remember to FOIL. So I have a first in f, x times x. X times x is going to be x squared. And I have outer, I have x times -5. So that's -5x. And I have inner, I have +5 times x. That's going to be +5x. And then finally I have last, which is +5 times -5, which is -25. I have to combine my like terms. A +5 times a negative, or a +5x, -5x plus +5x is going to be, they're going to cancel out. And all I will be left with is x squared minus 25. All right, now if you worked out this other one, you should have gotten x squared minus 36. Okay. So if you want to work that out and see if that's what you get, go for it. Okay, so if you're following along in the one I printed out, go to the square of sums, and the rest of the problems like this are right here. I'm just gonna, again, just work out 2 more. I'm gonna do these last 2 because they just look like they would be a lot scarier and harder, but they're really not. So before I even do that, I'm gonna go ahead and give y'all the answers to these first 4. Now, before I do that, pause the video, attempt it on your own, and see if you got them right. Okay, so this first one is x squared minus 9. Then we have x squared minus 1. Then we have 4x squared minus 25. And then we have 36x squared minus 4. Okay, so hopefully you all got those. No. Oh my goodness. I need to put a box around that, not parentheses. Okay, now let's do these last 2, and then we are done for skill 2 for the week, okay? And just so y'all know, if you even are understanding this just like at the minimum level, you're doing fine. This is a very important skill to know, but it is, I understand it is a lot to squeeze into a video. So just be patient with yourself, give yourself some grace. You're doing awesome, I promise you. Okay, all right, so I see I have 2 different polynomials. I have 2 terms. I have a binomial, okay? So I know that I need to do the FOIL method, okay? So keeping up with my same colors that I've been trying to use, I'm going to do first, I have 5x times 5x. So that's going to be 25x squared, because we multiply coefficients and we add exponents. Next, we do outer. I have 5x times a -4y. So once again, we are going to multiply coefficients, add the exponents. So 5 times a -4 is going to give me a -20. I have an x times a y, so it's just going to be xy. Okay, not scary. Next, we have inner. We have -4y times 5x. 4 times 5 is going to give me a +20. Y times x is going to give me yx. But remember, put the letter that comes first in the alphabet first. So x, y, once again. All right, and then last we have 4y times -4y. That's going to be -16y squared. All right, we're going to combine our like terms, the xy term. So I have a negative 20xy plus 20xy. Those cancel. So I'm left with 25x squared minus 16y squared. Okay, so even though it started off with multiple terms, some more coefficients, same process, okay? Just go step by step with what you know. All right, last one, guys, we can do this. Okay, so I have a binomial times a binomial. I know that I need to FOIL, and yes, I have written this every single time because if I write it every single time, that probably means it's really important, so make sure you're writing that down. Okay, so I'm going to do first, so I have 3x squared times 3x squared. Multiply the coefficients. 3 times 3, that gives me 9. Add the exponents. X squared, I'll have x to the 4th. Moving on, I go to my O, outer, so I have 3x squared times negative 2y. So that is going to be negative 6. Okay, and I have two different variables, so you just pretty much write out each variable. Okay, because it's like multiplying it by 1. All right, then I have inner. I have 2y times 3x squared. So I multiply coefficients, 2 times 3, that's going to give me a positive 6. Y times x squared, again, it's just going to be x squared y because alphabetical order. And then last, we have 2y times negative 2y, which is going to be negative 4y squared. Combine my like terms, negative 6x squared y plus 6x squared y. They cancel. And then I'm left with 9x to the 4th minus 4y squared. And once again, we're just simplifying these polynomials, which will help us, which will really help you in Algebra 2 and Algebra 3 when you start getting into more complex things. You will have to be able to take an equation in standard form or in this form here and go back and forth. So tomorrow, the last lesson of the year, because Friday is our last day, stay strong, but tomorrow we're going to learn how to work these backwards. So we're going to be starting with something like this and then ending up back here. Okay, so we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right, y'all are awesome. I hope this is going well for you. Again, if you need questions, just email me. See y'all, guys.